Welcome back. It's good to see everyone again. Glad that you're back again. If you are, hopefully you are. I do have an update this time because I did speak about Acid Wall previously. If you've seen that on episode one, I have a little bit of an update. My daughter and I actually went to see if it was still there. Recorded video, the whole 9 yards, and unfortunately, it's not there any longer. That's the sad thing about it. So I wasn't able to get a picture and actually revisit that site. It has long gone to memory. It is no longer there. Well, anyway, but on the bright side of things, on this little journey that my daughter and I had, I went to a few old movie theaters. Now, we all love summer movies, right? We all love movies in general. Now, the movie theaters that I'm going to talk about today were just growing up in the state of Alabama, right? They were huge, especially this general area in Birmingham area. But I'm sure everyone has their memories of the first movie they may have went to, or some of those movies that meant something to you. But there's a few movie theaters that ring just these great memories to me. And one in particular that we actually ran into was Cinema City 8. Now, if you're from this area, you know all about Cinema City 8. It was a fantastic octoplex, as they say. That's not like the well, it sort of is like the Octomom. I don't know if anybody remembers the Octomom. She had 8 kids. In this particular case, there's 8 movie theaters or screens that you can see movies from. In fact, at that time when it opened in 1978, it was the largest octoplex in the United States. It's pretty cool. Run by the Cobb family. Cobb movie theaters were a pretty big deal for a long time. They ended up getting bought out by Regal. So some of you may know about Regal theaters today. That's the remnants of what used to be Cobb theaters. The Cinema City 8 it was amazing. I literally, some of my earliest memories of movies were at Cinema City 8. So it was a really cool place to go. I remember going to Cinema City 8. The outside of it was just it shined in gold. I mean, I think it was goldish yellow, said Cinema City 8 Cobb theaters on there, and it had like this beautiful marquee with the lights and everything. You would go inside, it had the red velvet ropes waiting for you as you walk through, the smell of popcorn in the air, and it was just all kind of buzz. It was like the movie theater was alive, right? It was really, really cool. I actually saw Smokey and the Bandit there like 5, 6 times way back when. Smokey and the Bandit this was one of those movies that stick with you. I still quote it to this day. I love that movie. It was fantastic. I loved it so much that actually I got in a little bit of trouble. Seeing that movie for the first time, I was actually in kindergarten, I believe, believe it or not. My sister took me to see that. She also took me to see Kiss concert when they were in full makeup, right? The original Kiss. So I was a pretty a traveled 5-year-old, 6-year-old, I guess. So I saw this movie and it just made such an impact on me. I went back to kindergarten, Gillespie's kindergarten in Fultondale, Alabama, if anybody's ever heard of that. And I was in class and I decided that I would tell another student that I was going to barbecue his ass in molasses, which of course comes from Jackie Gleason in the movie. And I got in a little bit of trouble that day. But it did make a huge impact. I mean, Smokey and the Bandit was fantastic. And Cinema City was where I saw this movie at. It was absolutely amazing. I also fell in love with Corvettes. Corvette Summer. I don't know if anybody remembers that movie. I don't know if it was a huge success at the box office or anything, but it had Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill was in it. Also, Annie Potts. If anybody ever watched Designing Women, this was when she was very young. She played a character named Vanessa, which was really cool. Anyway, I fell in love with Corvettes. I thought it was really cool. First time ever heard candy apple red being used as a color for a vehicle. I always wanted a candy apple red Pontiac Trans Am, actually, because Smokey and the Bandit, Corvette Summer, that whole thing. Cinema City 8 was absolutely amazing. Also, I saw Grease there for the first time. Grease was one of those things that, I mean, you still sing the songs today. I do. I actually acted this out in elementary school. We did our own little version of Grease on the stage, lip syncing and the whole thing. It was really cool. Absolutely, and I thought John Travolta was like the coolest guy in the world. Not only was he Vinnie Barbarino on Welcome Back, Kotter, but he was, Danny Zuko in Grease, and he Saturday Night Fever. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, the dancing Saturday Night Fever, uh, amazing. I tried to dance like him, actually. True story. I don't know if, which some of you probably remember. I think they still do this today. In PE class, you do square dancing. And while we were doing square dancing, in Miss Bottoms, she was Miss Seal then, I believe. Miss Bottoms' class, we had like a free period where you could just dance crazy. So I used to go around and try to do my John Travolta thing, and I actually got the nickname Chris Travolta for a brief time, which I wear with honor. And I just absolutely love that. So Cinema City 8 was just an amazing, amazing movie theater. I loved it. It was awesome. So if you've ever been to Cinema City 8, you know how cool it was back in the day. Now, as these things go, they tend to actually evolve over time. And Cinema City 8 was, outdone by other movie theaters as time went on. And eventually they started playing the dollar movies. We saw some crazy dollar movies over there. And also people started to hang out and drive around in circles. You know how people will cruise around and around and around. They did that at Cinema City 8. Also, across the way, I should mention, was where I was introduced to the one. I don't know if it was R-rated, but it was one of the first R-rated movies I think I went to. I can't remember, but it was The Blue Lagoon with Brooke Shields, which I had a big crush on Brooke Shields, especially after seeing Blue Lagoon. But it was at this across the way in Roebuck. It was Roebuck Plaza. I used to think they called it Village East, but I think that's a different theater. But that's where I saw the Blue Lagoon for the first time. So pretty cool stuff. But Cinema City 8 also had a great game area. It was called the Super Cellar. It had like video games and pool tables and really cool stuff like that. So the great memories. My daughter and I rode around the parking lot and we took video. You can't really appreciate what it used to look like because the outside, it was just this huge. You knew you were going to something special when you walked into Cinema City 8 back in the day. I remember going to see, I don't know if it may have been Star Wars, actually. I went to see there. I think it might have been. Anyway, and I wore this back in the 70s. They used to wear leisure suits. And I was, I don't know, 6, 7 years old at the time. And I had this little blue leisure suit. And we went in and I left my jacket and they kept it on the ropes. And I went back to get it. So it was pretty cool. Anyway, so that was a really cool thing. Cinema City 8, pretty awesome. I have to, it goes down as a pretty great memory. Now, if you're talking about movie theaters, the next thing that pops up in my mind is always those Centerpoint movie theaters, which turned into a huge impact on me growing up in North Jefferson County in Birmingham, Alabama. But Centerpoint 6, one of the things, if you know about Centerpoint 6, what sticks out to me, I can't recall, I know I went to see, me and a buddy of mine years ago went to see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles there when they were big, right? I remember going there to see that, but that the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? So we were like 19 when that came out, 1920, something like that. So, but they were really cool. Maybe 1920, something like that. Anyway, so Center Point Six had this great game room too, like Cinema City, and they had this karate game. And I can't remember the name of this karate game. It just drives me crazy. Something karate, something. I can't remember exactly what it was. I've got wrote down Yi Ar Kung Fu. I think that might have been something like that. But it was this karate game. It was huge, and used to play it constantly. And right in the middle of the floor there, they had this dome hockey thing, which was a huge deal. So that was a lot of fun. So Center Point Six, a lot of good memories there. Now, if you're thinking about Center Point movie theaters, Bama 6 always comes to mind because I'll tell you, it was the epicenter of cruising around the movie theater and around the movie theater, then up and down the Center Point Parkway. My posse's on the parkway. This was a really good time. Up, down, we went back and forth. But Bama 6 was the spot in Center Point at that time. You go around and round, and you meet people, and we met a lot of people. We used to come around the corner and make sure the right song was on as you entered the parking lot. Had to be same thing for Burger King parking lot in Gardendale. Same kind of deal. You would have to hit that song, like Back in Black or something from AC/DC, surely, or Rat. If you hit the right, You're in Love, right when it hits that, crescendo of the song, you had to have the perfect entrance tune as you came into the parking lot, right? You come around the corner and then you're cruising, you're socializing, you're doing your thing. You listen to radios and you're checking out, the other cars as they come by. Many times saw this happen as you're checking out the car beside, which never happened to us, of course, but other people coming through, they would actually rear end. What is seen it happen a bunch of times. There was actually an interesting story. Me and my buddy Tim Ship, you know who you are. I just said your name, so obviously he used to have a Camaro, cool Camaro. There were a set of twins that drove a yellow Camaro over in the area, Bama 6, and Tim and I briefly actually befriended these two young ladies. Just it was great memories, I will say. Extra points if you remember what their nickname was. I won't get into that. Anyway, so Bama 6 was a cool place. It was a lot of fun. It was, it's like a lost, era. People, I don't think people do that as much anymore. That they tend to meet online or whatever. But it was a really good time. I also saw Top Gun for the first time at Bama 6, which is a big deal. Tom Cruise, that was back when he was cool before whatever today. Not to get into, all of that, but anywho, Scientology and all that. So hey, whatever floats your boat, that's great. But back then he was really cool, right? And it was a great movie. And the new Top Gun is really good too. So there you go. So Bama 6 was a lot of fun. It was the kind of, I look at it as, because Cinema City closed in 1990. And we were still cruising around Cinema City around those times too. But this was sort of the end of the cruising culture, for lack of a better. I don't think today, especially, it doesn't really exist anymore that I'm aware of. Maybe it does, and I just don't know because it's not like I'm going out doing this. But it's kind of a lost, bygone era, and it was fun. Now, another movie theater that I have to mention, it was off in Crestwood. It was Festival, I think it was 12. It went up to 18. Eventually, it was Festival 18, I think, but at the time, it was like Festival 12, and this thing was like massive. And I'll never forget going to see Silence of the Lambs, 1991, and it just opened, and it was midnight showing of Silence of the Lambs. We showed up going in there, and at the same time, there was a Julia Roberts movie called Sleeping with the Enemy. And of course, we were going to make a joke as we ordered our tickets when we got up there. And of course, we said Sleeping with the Lambs. And anyway, it wasn't a great joke. But anyway, we ended up going to see this movie, midnight showing, Silence of the Lambs. Huge, great movie, still holds up real well today. And we actually sat on the front row, when you have to sit straight up like that, you know what I'm saying? You have to look straight up. And it was amazing. Even with that, Hannibal Lecter left an imprint. I mean, even having your neck is sore. You get a crick in your neck, as my mama used to say. So it was a lot of fun, and we really enjoyed it. The festival was a kind of the go-to there in the early 90s, I guess it would have been. It was really a go-to place. You would go there, and then they had like a Chili's there that was a good like after movie place to go and have a meal or something, or pretty cool kind of stuff. So great movies there. Of course, a lot of movies you can go through that you saw there. I saw Wayne's World there for the first time, which is another one of those movies that I don't know how many young people today appreciate Wayne's World, but it was pretty cool when it came out. Now, one of the things I have to mention, if I'm getting into movie theaters, I have to go to the GOAT of all movie theaters, to me, is the Alabama Theater. Downtown Birmingham, an amazing theater. And it sticks out to me for a lot of reasons. Not only is this the organ, this great show it puts on, and in fact, we just went to this past Christmas. We went to see A Christmas Story down there, and it was actually the last movie my mother-in-law saw. She passed away not too long after that, and it was a great memory, and I'm really glad we got to do that. And it's just a great atmosphere to see a movie. Now, I took my wife, Cheryl, on our first date to the Alabama Theater. She suggested, this is an interesting story. She wanted to go eat Indian food. Now, when I met my wife, I was in law enforcement. I was early 20s. Oh gosh, how old was I? 24, 3, 4, somewhere in there. Anyway, maybe 25, maybe 25. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so she said, let's go, have Indian food at a place called Taj India. And, I had barely even had like Chinese food at this point. I mean, I didn't eat Chinese food for the first time till I was 21 or something crazy. I mean, I didn't branch out that much with food. Now she introduced me to the greatest cuisine that, I mean, outside of good Southern cooking, good, barbecue, stuff like that. Barbecue, turnip greens and, all that good stuff. And fried chicken, I should mention. The Indian food is one of my favorite cuisines that has ever existed. And to this day, I mean, I love going to Taj. It's an amazing place. But at that point, I never had Taj. However, I really was interested in Miss Cheryl. So I'm like, okay. So I went to eat Indian food for the very first time on our first date. And it was very good then. Now I've learned to appreciate and branch out more and try different things. The older that I have gotten, now I just love food. I'll eat anything pretty much. Now, after we went to Taj, we ended up going to the Alabama Theater to see Breakfast at Tiffany's, right? It's pretty cool, right? So we'll go see Breakfast at Tiffany's, Audrey Hepburn in all her glory, George Peppard also. Later, he, of course, the A-Team. He was Hannibal in the A-Team. We go to see this movie. It was a perfect date. Absolutely amazing. It was, I mean, I don't know that I could have, wrote a script that was a better date. So after that, now about a year or so later, I have decided that this is the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. So I wanted to propose to her at the Alabama Theater. That was my plan, to sort of recreate that, first date feel. However, I couldn't work that out, and I let the cat out of the bag going down Highway 31 in Hoover after we had left the Galleria or something. And I ended up proposing driving down the road. So it was not near as exciting as it could have been, which is, unfortunate. But another interesting story about that is that when I went to get the engagement ring, these are big purchases. An engagement ring, what is it, 3 month salary or something you're supposed to spend? So we go to a place called Levy's downtown. She wants an estate piece. She finds the ring she wants. It's perfect. And so I decide, well, I'm a cop at that time, working law enforcement. I'm making good money, what I thought, what I thought was good money. My credit was good. I mean, I just didn't have a lot of it because I didn't buy stuff on credit much. So I go in there and I talk to the guys. This is the ring that we need to get and everything. And Cheryl's with me at the time. She's standing there with me because she wants to make sure that I did it right. And the guy says, "Well, let's do it. A credit check. See what we can do if we can extend the credit because this is a big purchase." And he comes back and says, "Yeah, we can't really do the credit because you don't have enough." And I'm like, "Dude, you got to be kidding me, man! I mean, I got my fiance is here." And anyway, so my wife had to co-sign on my ring, her ring, on the ring that I bought for her. She basically had to buy her own ring because my credit. Now today, of course, I have the top, whatever the top. No, I mean my credit is. I could do it today. I don't need to do it today, but I could. So there you go. Kind of is what it is. But that's the funny story that happened. True thing. It was kind of, it's a funny story now that but yeah, the Alabama Theater is a great place to go. They have sometimes they'll have double features down there on Valentine's Day. They do Sleepless in Seattle and A Fair to Remember, which is really cool for Valentine's. And of course, on Christmas they do all the Christmas movies. And I of course want to go see a Christmas Vacation down there because that's like when you think of a Christmas movie, Christmas Vacation is kind of that's a pretty big deal. But the movie theaters in the Birmingham area and of anywhere you live, you have memories from these and the movies that you saw there and what they meant. But what means so much more now is these places aren't there anymore. Cinema City 8 is something, it turned into like a Winn-Dixie or something for a while. I think it was Winn-Dixie. And then now I don't even know what it is. I mean, I have it on video. I should look back at the video and see what it is, but it's not, and then Bama 6 is not even there anymore. It's completely gone. The building is, it was taken down. So the whole parking lot looks different than it used to. I think Centerpoint 6 is a church, I think now, which makes sense. I mean, that is a good place to have a church, you would think. So that's pretty cool. But a lot of those memories, they stick with you, and it's nice to revisit them. I was really surprised the other day going when Maddie, my daughter, and I went to see Acid Wall, and it wasn't there. And then we went over to Cinema City 8. Then we went down the Parkway to, Bama 6 and Centerpoint 6. And it was those roads, those old roads we used to travel, they're still there. But it's a lot different. And it's sort of, it's bittersweet in a way. I mean, it's one of those things. You have great memories of these, but time marches on, as they say. But I did want to give everybody the update on Acid Wall, and also, while I was at it, talk a little bit about movie theaters and things like that. But that is all for this episode of what I'm still calling Retro Recon at this particular moment. And we will see everyone next time. Y'all have a fantastic day.